Welcome to Aquatic Biology. Today, we are going to explore one of the most dynamic and vibrant environments on Earth, estuaries. Imagine baking a cake and gently folding sweet vanilla syrup into salty caramel. That is exactly what happens in nature when a freshwater river meets the salty ocean. Let us dive in and discover how this magical mixing zone works and why it is so important. Now that we know what we are looking at, let us define what an estuary actually is. When a freshwater river finally reaches the end of its long journey, it does not just hit a sudden wall of ocean water. Instead, the two waters blend together. This creates what we call brackish water, which has a salinity level somewhere between pure freshwater and pure seawater. It is nature's ultimate transition zone, where the river shakes hands with the sea. Building on that idea of a transition zone, let us look at the physical structure of an estuary. Scientifically, it is a partially enclosed coastal body of water that maintains a free connection to the open sea. The key here is the term partially enclosed. Land masses, like peninsulas or barrier islands, protect the estuary from the full force of ocean waves and violent storms. This unique combination of sheltered waters and continuous tidal flushing creates a highly specialized ecosystem. To really picture this sheltered environment, let us look at this diagram. On the left, you see the freshwater river flowing down from the land. On the right is the vast, salty, open ocean. Notice the barrier islands in the middle. They act like a protective shield against harsh ocean waves. The area behind them, shaded in teal, is the estuary itself. This is where the continuous input of river water mixes with the tidal salt water, creating that perfect brackish habitat we just discussed. Seeing how protected this area is, it brings us to an important question. Why do we care so much about these muddy, marshy areas? Estuaries are often called the nurseries of the sea. They provide a safe, nutrient-rich haven for the juvenile stages of countless fish, crabs, and shrimp. Without them, commercial fisheries would collapse. Furthermore, the wetlands act like giant natural sponges that absorb heavy floodwaters, protecting inland cities. Their plant roots also trap harmful pollutants before they can reach the open ocean. Knowing how vital these ecosystems are, biologists need a way to monitor their health. We can't just look at the water and know its exact composition. Because different marine organisms can only survive within very specific ranges of this freshwater and saltwater mixture, we have to calculate it mathematically. We do this by finding the freshwater fraction, which tells us the exact proportion of freshwater present in any given sample of estuarine water. This brings us to the mathematical representation of our mixing zone. The freshwater fraction, denoted by F, is calculated by taking the ocean's salinity, subtracting the estuary's salinity, and dividing by the ocean's salinity. Conceptually, the numerator represents the missing salt, the amount of pure ocean water that has been diluted by river drainage. If a drought reduces river flow, the estuary becomes saltier, and the fraction F drops toward zero. If more river water flows in, the fraction increases toward 1. Let us see this formula in action with a concrete example. Suppose you are an aquatic biologist testing a habitat for juvenile shrimp. You measure the open ocean salinity at 35 parts per thousand and your estuary sample at 21 parts per thousand. We substitute these exact values into our equation. Subtracting 21 from 35 gives us 14 in the numerator, which is the missing salinity diluted by the river. Dividing 14 by 35 gives a final decimal value of 0.40. This physically means the water at this location is exactly 40% freshwater and 60% seawater. Now that we have calculated the water's composition, let us look at how the water moves. Another crucial concept is how fast an estuary cleans itself, which is known as the flushing time. This tells us how long a drop of water, or a pollutant, stays in the estuary before being washed out to sea. It is the time it takes for the incoming river to completely replace the existing freshwater in the estuary. Understanding this timeline is absolutely vital for environmental managers coordinating cleanup efforts. To find out exactly how long this cleaning process takes, we use the standard residence time formula. T represents the flushing time in days. We calculate this by taking V, the total volume of freshwater currently held within the estuary, and dividing it by Q, the river discharge or inflow rate. Think about it physically. If the river flows faster and the inflow rate Q increases, the denominator gets larger, which means the flushing time T will decrease. The estuary cleans itself much faster. Let us apply this formula to a real-world scenario. Imagine an estuary has a total freshwater volume of 120,000 cubic meters. The river flowing into it supplies new freshwater at a steady rate of 400 cubic meters per day. We substitute these physical parameters into our equation, replacing V with 120,000 and Q with 400. Performing this simple division yields a final result of 30. Physically, this tells us that if a chemical spill occurred, it would take exactly 30 days, or about a month, for the natural river flow to completely flush the contaminated water out to the open ocean. To solidify this concept, let us look at this schematic of the flushing process. The central region represents the total volume of freshwater trapped in the estuary. The arrow on the left is the continuous river inflow pushing new water into the system. Because the estuary can only hold so much water, this incoming flow forces the older, potentially polluted water out into the ocean, shown by the arrow on the right. The clock represents the 30 days it takes for this entire volume to be completely replaced by the incoming river. We have covered a lot of ground today, so let us review the most important ideas. First, estuaries are vital, partially enclosed coastal environments where freshwater and saltwater mix to create brackish habitats. Second, they are the biological foundation of our oceans, acting as nurseries for marine life and natural filters for pollutants. Finally, by using mathematical tools like the freshwater fraction and flushing time, biologists can monitor the health of these ecosystems and protect them from environmental threats. Great job following along. You now understand the fundamental science of estuaries.